it like an American. Like, is that a Maserati?
Quattroporte.
Quattroporte. Sport GTS. Well, I thought I would start with just a hypothetical, okay? So it's 2009 and you survived the recession.
Yes.
And so, let's say you like scammed the banks or you did some crazy stuff and you survived, right?
Yeah.
And you go to the Maserati dealership and your budget's like $140,000. And you come and you place a deposit on one of these and they say, "Congratulations, sir. Thank you so much for your purchase of your Quattroporte Sport GTS."
Yeah.
And they hand you this.
No.
That is the worst.
This makes a Lamborghini Gallardo key look high quality.
Yeah, it's really bad. And this, to be fair, this key is super busted. So
That is a work of art.
yes, it doesn't even go into place. I have to put it. That says it all.
Welcome to the Maserati ownership experience.
It says everything. Okay,
Everything.
should we just go ahead and start?
And now you own this car.
Yes, unfortunately. It started.
It did. We're off to a good start. Let's go.
All right.
Welcome to what it's like to own a heavily depreciated Maserati Quattroporte Sport GTS. We got to break down the name because Quattroporte literally just means four-door in Italian.
Correct.
And then you said it's sport, but GTS stands
means
for
Gran Turismo Sport.
So
So this is technically the Quattroporte Sport Gran Turismo Sport, but if you think about it, this is already a Gran Turismo Sport. So if you think about it, it's like it's a Grand Tourer. So it's like Grand Touring Sport, Grand Touring Sport.
I have a headache now.
Yeah.
It's an Italian four-door.
Grand Touring Sport, Sport Grand Touring Sport.
Yeah, okay, there we
you go.
go.
That's
All
the
right,
one.
all right.
There we go.
So Tim, you recently purchased a Quattroporte.
I did.
Walk me through what possessed you to make this decision.
So I guess I'll just go ahead and go back in time.
Yeah.
In 2021, I was working for a company that started paying me a lot of money. And I started thinking to myself, well, I'm a contrarian. I love weird cars that nobody else has.
Yes.
And I was watching some old Top Gear, and on season 15, I think episode 3,
Yeah.
there was a comparison test between 3 executive alternative sedans that were not Mercedes, Audi, or BMW.
Correct.
And it was the Aston Martin Rapide, the Porsche Panamera Turbo, and the Quattroporte Sport GTS.
Yes.
And this car, for some reason, the look, the wheels, the sound, the unanimous vote at the end of the episode to pick this car over the others sold me. I was like, there's something with this car. Clearly, if everybody else can unanimously agree.
I think that's part of it.
That helps, for sure.
That noise.
Yeah, that is by far the best part for me.
Yes.
But basically, I was making money, and I met a guy locally, Michael. I won't say his last name, but Michael. I met this guy, really nice dude. He let me drive his GTS.
Hey, generous.
He had an 09, and I loved it because it was all the things the 300 couldn't do, and a weird thing to cross shop at 300 SRT.
Well, context there. If you haven't seen the previous video, go check them out. We did a couple, but you had a 300 SRT, which was a really cool vehicle.
It was.
Check
It was
out
a
that
great
video.
car.
You sold it with 190?
No, I sold it with 207,000 miles on it.
Respect.
Yeah,
So that's
so-
the context, and then you got into a more reliable sedan.
Not quite. That was actually a very reliable car, all
It
things
was.
considered.
Yeah.
I drove the pants off of that car.
Yeah.
And, you know, the thing is my company that I was working at in 2021 got shut down because of fraud allegations.
Oh, yeah, I remember that
You
story.
remember that
Yes,
story?
that was a big red flag.
Right, so that put me off the car. I was like, I should just keep what I have
Yeah,
and relax, get another job. I started working for Illinois Motors,
Yeah.
and that gig's been great.
Yeah.
And I remember road tripping my 300 SRT to California.
Yeah.
I did one last big drive for it, so I'm like, I know it's gonna annihilate the value, but
Worth
I
it.
want to cross 200,000 miles. I want to say I did it. I want to have no regrets. I did it. The car was great.
Yeah.
I had one mishap in California.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
I got back on the road in like a day. And I was on my way home, and I was at a motel, or a hotel. I consider it a motel because it sucks so bad. But it was a hotel in northern Texas, like middle of nowhere.
Okay.
And I got there, it was like 9:30. I'm really tired from driving. And there was just something, there was an itch that I could not scratch.
Yeah.
I was thinking about my next car.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a Camaro ZL11 LE.
Yes, you were really on that.
I was on it 100%.
Yeah.
I could not justify a near $800 to $850 a month payment for this car with like a $25,000 down payment.
Yeah.
With like
That's so
six or 7 year like term.
Yeah.
I just couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
There was no way. But there was an itch that I couldn't scratch with my 300. The braking was never there. The steering was never there.
Yeah.
The drivability, the reactivity wasn't there. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm 25. I'm already balding. I might as well just get a Maserati.
Jump straight to the midlife crisis.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I was just wanted to be there already.
Okay.
And this car, it just does things for me that the 300 and most other performance sedans don't do. And it's the reactivity.
The fizz.
Is the fizz.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the stuff that you can't put on paper. And I love the car. I've had it only about 6,500, 7,000 miles now.
Okay.
And
how many miles are on this one?
I bought the car with what's considered driver mileage.
Okay.
31,900 miles.
See, that is 1/6 how many you had on the SRT.
Exactly.
1/7. Yeah.
Exactly. So the thing is everybody considers, I love the downshifts of this car.
That was a nice little pop.
This
yeah.
one's just like,
Ooh.
oh man, unreal. But basically, this car is so rare and it's so hard to find that ones with driver miles are literally ones with anything over 20,000 miles.
Ah, okay.
Because most people that could afford this car in 2009 immediately took $60,000 in a hit, probably in a year, in depreciation in 2009, 2010. They made this trim, this really rare trim, for like 4 years. And you have to think, who's the type of guy that can afford that car and not care about the economy? Probably old people. Let's be honest,
people, yeah.
Right? So they sit around, they collect dust,
Yeah.
they don't get driven, and this is how these cars depreciate. They don't get serviced.
Yeah.
And the big thing for me when I bought this car was pre-purchase inspection.
Oh, yeah.
It's everything.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
I did
a
that.
rule for any car, especially high-end cars, I think, performance cars.
Exactly.
And
so
a clean bill of health?
yes.
Okay.
The only things they showed me were some cosmetic issues, and this
Yeah.
car spent some time outside in Arizona and California.
Oh, okay.
Fun fact about the history of this car, from 2011 to 2019, this car was registered every year at a Montana LLC.
Oh, I wonder why somebody did that. Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds really good. So, 4.7 in this one, naturally
Correct.
aspirated V8.
Yes.
Power is,
440.
and how much torque?
Like 380 or
380?
something
Okay.
around there. It's a cross-plane crank. Here we go with the Ferrari engine
Oh
talk.
boy!
Because I can't stand it when people who buy these cars, they're like, oh, it has a Ferrari engine. It's like, a Ferrari engine is in a Ferrari.
Yeah.
This engine was never in a Ferrari. The
Yeah.
only thing that this engine shares outside of accessories and a few internal parts and the block that's it.
Yeah.
Those are the only things that are shared. It's the F136 engine.
Okay.
So this has a different crank, different pistons, different cams, totally different setup, and it's also much larger than what you'd find in a Ferrari. It's nearly 5 liters, 4.7.
Yeah.
So this engine's Ferrari engineered or Ferrari based.
Ferrari adjacent.
Exactly. That's
Maserati as a brand. It's Ferrari adjacent now.
Exactly. So that's kind of how I like to classify the engine, because it's not a flat plane crank.
Yeah.
That's a Ferrari defining
That is the proper
feature.
Ferrari V8 V12s. Transmission is a torque converter, right?
Yes, and it's a great one. It's a ZF6 speed.
ZF6 with their tuning, rear-wheel drive only.
Yes.
And this, I mean, in the Top Gear video, went against an Aston Martin Rapide, which has a obviously V12.
Same transmission.
Oh, does it?
It does.
Oh, they just
Same
retune them.
ZF6. Yes.
Well, ZF now puts a transmission in everything, right? Because
Yeah.
the ZF8 can be found in anything from an M5 to a Rolls Royce. You're like, whoa.
And late Aston Martins and current Aston Martins
Oh
all
yeah,
have
yeah,
ZF8.
absolutely.
So
Man, I mean, congratulations.
Thank you.
You definitely do love the unique thing, because the 300 SRT was already like pretty unique in its own way, right?
It
And that's what drew it to you. And now this, when you told me, I'm like, oh, I please hope it stays reliable. I think that's the first thing I said to you.
That was the first thing.
Yeah, I was like, that's very exciting, but please make it work, because I've heard horror stories of window switches falling out.
100%.
We all know
that is
Maserati has a reputation.
Generally speaking, there's going to be things you're fixing. The real problem with these cars, and this is what I can say for a fact. I'm gonna this is a good spot
all right
here.
Time out.
Oh, that's window squeak.
Is that?
That is window trim that is old that I need to have replaced because it was out in the Arizona sun.
I see.
More Maserati build quality for you.
Yep.
There's a high-pitched squealing that starts back
there.
there.
Like a hamster that we just ran over or something.
Exactly. So the thing is, I actually drive this car with the windows down, so I don't really care. So I'm always listening to the exhaust. You know?
Yeah.
And,
so you've done a couple minor little mods already.
No.
No? I thought, did the X-Pipe show up?
No.
This is still stock exhaust?
It is stock exhaust.
Ooh.
Yes.
What happened to the X-Pipe?
I still have it.
Oh, you just haven't put it on yet?
I didn't want to ruin it, so I'm still thinking about, like, if I'm going to do it or not. I know I can, but it's money, and listen.
You could make more money.
There's a reason I bought a pre-owned Maserati and not a new one. It's because I'm cheap.
No. So, that means you're smart with your money.
That is true.
Because you buy a brand new one, you lose that money immediately. Like, this is... Yeah, okay, but you did the carbon fiber steering wheel.
Yes, that's really it. The rest of the car, I added the stripes back to the front very shittily, and I'm going to have to end up getting like a proper way to add the GTS stripes on the front grill badge. But other than that, that's it. And I've done some general service, just precautionary service. I did transmission service. I've done 2 oil changes already. I haven't done the diff yet, but I also haven't been screwing around, so that's good. And that's it, really. And I did an electronic parking brake readjustment. That's it.
And you're going to independent shops for this now?
Yes. I'm not going through any franchise dealerships because they want $1,300 for another key. Yeah.
For one of those?
For one of those.
Might as well be made of Play-Doh. It'd be higher quality.
That's why I'm thinking about just buying the frame, the case, and swapping everything over. And just avoiding the,
ridiculous.
The fluff. So
so what have the costs been so far of all this stuff at an independent shop?
So they're not terrible. Oil changes are about $180, $200. This is
fine.
It's synthetic. It's 5W40 and it's a wet sump. So it's big difference between the early single clutch cars and the automatics and the 4.2 and 4.7s is it's converted to wet sump. And that's good and bad because I am just at a loss of the stupidity with a lot of the engineering decisions with this company.
Well, it's Maserati, so.
Oh, man.
Ooh. There's a hamster.
So, what I mean by stupid engineering decisions is pretty much this. So, when they converted the car to wet sump for the torque converter cars, the automatics, something that they did is obviously you're fundamentally changing how the oil system, the engine gets its oil. You're changing the direction. So it picks up from the bottom to the top, right? Instead of top to bottom. When they did this, they did not put check valves in the cam caps. So on a very cold day, if you crank it, there is no oil in the top end at all. None. And that's for 4.7 and 4.2 wet sump engines. Pre-late 2010. So then apparently they fixed it in all 2011. It's all good. And then apparently they stopped fixing it in 2012.
What?
Apparently. So that's kind of the stuff you're dealing with here with this company. And I bought this car. It's an 09, so it's technically not a fix. Technically, I have no check valves. It is of my opinion that the reason that these cars have cam variator issues, which is caused by no oil, is, you know what the factory recommended oil change interval is on this?
Oh man, probably like 10, 15?
12,500 miles, which is insane for an engine that needs to be revved high all the time and driven with load. And I've done 2 oil changes, and I always drive in sport mode. I'm never below like ever 2,500 RPM when I'm driving. I'm actually generally getting horrible gas mileage because I'm letting it hang at like 4,000. And honestly, I personally don't believe I'll have the issue because I do my services on time. I do them
Yeah.
every 4,000.
Yeah.
And I'm just always driving it under load.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
a big deal with these cars, is a lot of them didn't see any load in their lifetime.
They were just idling around, heading to the country club, and then to the steakhouse, and then back home.
Correct.
And then maybe to your assisted living facility.
Exactly.
Because
exactly.
we're old.
But as far, I bought it with 31.9.
Yeah.
And in April 24th of this year.
Yeah.
And it's got 37,712.
You're driving it.
So I've been driving it,
you're
and it's
gonna
not,
get it up
and it's
there.
not my daily.
Oh, okay.
So I have a 2000 Lexus because I'm smarter than that.
Why didn't you get a Lexus?
Oh,
you told me about it
You've
last time.
seen it?
Yeah. Well, I saw it, then immediately
Yeah, you saw it.
exited my mind.
Well, it's a Camry with leather. I mean, you're gonna miss it like easily.
It's just beige.
So I bought this car. If you want to get into one of these cars, the GTS is the way.
Okay.
Because Bilstein shocks instead of Skyhook adaptive shocks, incredible exhaust, ZF transmission, and the 4.7 V8. It's just a great combination. You're gonna deal with stuff. You have to go in thinking I'm gonna be the only guy in the world that doesn't experience the issues, because it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll have to do window regulators on some of them before, but on the service history, this car's had it done.
Oh, okay.
So it might have it again, which it probably will. It might have some other issues, but I bought this car. I did my research. You have to kind of go in knowing what to expect.
Yes.
Big things with these cars are suspension bushings, control arm bushings, ball joints. These cars kind of eat a lot of suspension up. The GTS is considerably better, mainly because the shocks are, you're immediately cutting out almost 10,000 in preventative, based on the fact that it's over $2,000 a corner to do Skyhook shocks. Here, I'm gonna just.
Oh.
Hopefully that picked up pretty good.
Yeah. For a stock exhaust, man, that is.
Yeah. It's something.
That does sound glorious. NA V8s, high revving, NA, anything really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, ballpark market value, how much are these now?
So realistically, you're looking to spend, from my experience, if you want some high mileage, you'd be surprised. I've seen a couple come up with 80 to 150,000 miles, which you wouldn't think is possible, but it's been done.
Okay.
Dude, 150,000 mile cars can go for like 12, 13 grand,
Oh.
which is crazy to think about, like the value,
yeah.
but all the maintenance, and you have to assume, you have to.
The car is
honestly,
the cheapest part at that point of the ownership experience.
Exactly. So, but in realistic mileage ranges from like 30 to 55 or 60,000 miles, expect to pay between 25 and 35,000. That's kind of where you should pay.
Okay.
And there's actually, as we speak, because I watch the market like a hawk.
Yeah.
Like I swear only like 12 or 15 of these transact a year.
Yeah.
So there's a 50,000 mile 2011, so that's a fixed year car, in great spec, full carbon interior, just like this.
Yep.
Mine's slightly different because of the model year, but it wants 37 grand, and I think if you knock it down to like 34 or 33, it's probably worth it.
Yeah.
But it's got 50,000 miles. That's good mileage to drive the car.
And what was MSRP on these when they were new?
Base price was $134,000. My car options out to about $143,000. And now they can be had in the 20s and 30s. It's pretty bad. I mean, we're talking like S-Class depreciation. It's pretty bad.
That's brutal.
But what's funny is the only attention I get in this car is from older people. They love it.
Oh, yeah.
Like 50, 60-year-old,
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I love your car. I go to a car meet or something, and people are like, oh, just some dickhead who thinks he's rich. Some guy who thinks he's got money. And it's just like, look,
how do you feel?
I didn't buy the car for anybody else.
No,
it's such a fantastic car to drive. I love the way it looks. Sounds incredible.
Looks are definitely a big draw on
Yeah.
these. Because I think the Sport GTS it had darkened headlights.
Yes.
Some of those little touches, you can tell that difference there with the updated aspects of it.
LED front and rear lights.
Okay.
So the taillights are LEDs. That also makes it a nightmare if you have a housing issue. God, dude, prices on parts. My God.
See, that's what people don't understand. You can afford to buy it, but afford to own and run it.
Yes.
You're paying $140,000 car parts.
Exactly.
Those don't depreciate.
If anything, servicing these is an appreciating asset.
Yeah, because less people know how to do it, and it's not as common, right? So what? The housings for the lights are...
Headlight housing.
Uh-oh.
A used one.
Uh-oh.
The last price I saw was $4,400 for one.
For a quarter? For just one light?
For one housing. Not just the bull, but the whole housing.
Ah.
The headlight assembly's $4,400. I believe it's cheaper to get a Ferrari 430 housing. It's like $2,700.
Oh, cool.
And this is $4,000.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. So there's a lot of risks when you buy this car. Even if you do this the right way and buy a GTS and you're mitigating Skyhook and you're mitigating a lot of the other risk factors, there's still a ton. There's a lot. And that's why it's important to do a PPI and do your research and go in expecting the worst.
You've given me anxiety thinking about ownership costs of things like that.
Oh, man. I mean, but I go into it and I just drive it every day, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
And I've owned it, knock on carbon fiber, but you know, I bought it with 31.9. It has not broken. I took it to Road America for a weekend. I had it up in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I've driven it insane speed, over 130, 140 miles an hour.
Wow.
I've driven it and I've done a lot of my servicing, and you just eat the costs on the little things. And you know, this car wants to run. It wants to be driven. For it to sit is the worst thing in the world. And I'm always keeping it in RPM, and that's all you can hope for, really.
Service it, drive it, enjoy it, make sure everything's at temp.
Exactly. So that's how I drive it, and that's how I own it, and I'm hoping it continues to be a great car.
I hope so for you too. When I first found out, I was very, very excited. Actually, somebody told me before you told me. I'm like, I don't know what I was supposed to tell you, but Tim finally did. I'm like, he did?
Oh, yeah.
And then you brought it by, and I'm like, there. I heard it pull into my neighborhood. I'm like, oh, I think I hear a Maserati V8.
That's the best part is, like, I took this car downtown.
Yeah.
The echoes off the buildings.
Oh.
Incredible.
Yes.
Incredible. And, dude, it's just such a great car. But what's funny is, you know what, maybe we'll talk about that part when you drive it.
Okay.
But there is there's a reason why people have kind of mixed feelings on these, especially from a driving perspective, but we'll get to that.
Okay, yeah, I gotta drive it. We'll do my driving review. I'm gonna put Tim in the passenger seat, I'll drive it. This is the fully ownership perspective interview.
Exactly. I think that covers the bases.
We've covered a good amount of the bases, absolutely.
So what's next is just for you to drive it.
Yeah, I'm gonna drive this thing and see what it's like. Well, hope you guys enjoyed this glimpse into what it's like to own a Maserati Quattroporte Sport GTS. Man, that's a long name for a car.
It is
Man,
a lot.
Yeah, sheesh. Like, it's the little badge here is like half of the dashboard, the glove box. Like,
well, when you say it like an Italian person, it makes all the sense in the world.
Oh,
like if you say it like an American, like is that a Maserati
Quattroporte
Sport GTS? You got to be like
Quattroporte. You know I'm calling it that from now on.
What's funny is my coworker calls it Quattroporte.
Quattroporte.
Because he thinks these are all piles of crap. Which I think it's warranted.
Yeah.
But Maserati Quattroporte Sport GTS, like, it sounds fucking nice.
Yeah, it does.
It sounds super exotic.
I think you've made a step up in uniqueness and prestige from the 300 SRT. I expect nothing less of you.
Yeah.
Honestly, you can't buy a ZL 1.0e. That'd be boring. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not allowed to.
It's a great car, but
you have to, like, what would be the fitting pair to this? An easy answer would be like a 612 Spaghetti or something.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
Something like
stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. I don't think I can go down from this as far as, like, excitement.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
It really is hard because this car is tremendous.
Yeah.
And you're going to experience it now.
Alrighty.
You ready?
Sounds good. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you watch the full review when I get to drive it. Thanks. Check out Tim Bro Photo on the Instagram. Thanks, guys.